Commander Vexthul of the Hegemony Fleet stared at the tactical display with what could only be described as confusion, if one could read the subtle twitching of his 4 eye stalks. The human vessel. Defiant hung motionless in space, seemingly defenseless against the most advanced weapons the galaxy had ever seen. Target acquired, his weapons officer hissed through translator implants. Graviton disruptors charged and ready. Vexthul's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. The humans had proven surprisingly resilient during their first contact wars, but they still relied on primitive kinetic weapons and fusion drives. The Hegemony's graviton disruptors could literally tear apart the fabric of space-time around a target, creating localized singularities that consumed matter at the quantum level. No shield technology in the galaxy could defend against weapons that bypassed the electromagnetic spectrum entirely. "Fire," he commanded. The disruptor beam lanced out, a barely visible distortion in space that bent light around it. It struck the human ship's hull and stopped. The gravitational anomaly simply dissipated against the ship's surface like water against stone. "Impossible," breathed the weapons officer. "The quantum cascade should have—" "Fire again," Vexthul snarled. 3 more beams struck the human vessel. Each one vanished harmlessly against its hull. The communications array crackled to life. A human voice artificially calmed through the translation matrix. "Hegemony vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Defiant. We've received your weapons fire. Please stand down while we respond in kind." Vexthul's primary arms flexed involuntarily. "Respond? Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our exotic matter shielding. Our hulls exist in a state of quantum superposition, phasing between dimensions to avoid—" The human ship fired. It wasn't a beam or a projectile. The scanner readings made no sense. The human weapon seemed to be transmitting pure mathematics. Equations cascaded across Vexthul's displays as something struck his ship's shielding system. Then his shields simply stopped working. Not destroyed or overloaded. They ceased to function as if the very concept of exotic matter shielding had been erased from local spacetime. "Status report," Vexthul barked. "Sir, our quantum phase generators are operational, but they're not working. The mathematics governing their function appear to have been locally rewritten." Captain Chen's voice returned, still maddeningly composed. "Commander, you're probably wondering why your shields aren't functioning. We've deployed what we call a logic virus, a weaponized proof that demonstrates your shield technology contains a fundamental mathematical contradiction. Since your computers can't process something that's logically impossible, they've shut down those systems to prevent cascade failures." Vexthul felt his exoskeleton tighten. The humans had weaponized mathematics itself? Impossible. The universe runs on consistent physical laws. You cannot simply rewrite them. You'd think so, wouldn't you? Chen replied. But here's the thing about us humans. We've never been particularly good at accepting what's supposed to be impossible. When we encountered your technology during first contact, our physicists didn't try to replicate it. They tried to break it. Another human weapon fired. This time Vexthul watched in horror as his graviton disruptors began targeting each other. Their targeting systems apparently convinced that the most dangerous threat in local space was themselves. "We call that one a recursive logic bomb," Chen continued conversationally. "Your weapons are very sophisticated. Too sophisticated, really. They're smart enough to recognize threats and prioritize targets. We just convinced them that they're the biggest threat around." "This is madness," Vexthul whispered. "You're violating the fundamental laws of causality. Are we? Or are we just thinking about them differently?" A pause. "See, when you showed up with weapons that bend spacetime and shields that exist in quantum superposition, our scientists didn't ask, how do they work? They asked, how can we make them not work?" Vexthul's tactical officer spoke up, voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Sir, our dimensional phase drives are malfunctioning. They're trying to phase us into a dimension that doesn't exist." "That would be our null space redirect," Chen explained helpfully. "We've convinced your phase drives that there's a lovely pocket dimension right next to normal space where you can hide safely. There isn't, of course. We just made your computers believe there is. Mathematics is funny that way. If you can prove something exists, computers will try to use it even if reality disagrees." The hegemony commander stared at his useless displays. Decades of military service, commanding the most advanced warship in known space, and he was being defeated by weapons that didn't destroy his technology. They simply convinced it to stop working. How? He finally asked. We taught our computers to argue, Chen replied. Not just calculate, argue, debate, find flaws in logic. Your technology is built on elegant mathematical principles, but elegance often means complexity, and complexity means vulnerabilities. We don't need to understand your physics to break them. We just need to find the logical flaws and exploit them. Vexthul looked around his bridge at displays showing weapons that thought they were targeting themselves, shields that had forgotten how to exist, and drives that were trying to phase into imaginary dimensions. His crew stared back with expressions of complete bewilderment. You're insane, he said finally. Probably, Chen agreed cheerfully. But here's the thing about human insanity, it's very creative. You brought physics-bending weapons to fight us. We brought solutions that convinced your physics to bend back until they broke. Want to surrender? Or should we show you what our paradox engine does to faster-than-light drives? Vexthul's mandibles clicked in defeat. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that responded to superior technology by attacking the very logic that made it possible. The humans didn't just think outside the box, they convinced the box that it didn't exist. Hegemony fleet stands down, he transmitted, watching his weapon systems argue themselves into shutdown mode. As the human ship moved to accept their surrender, Vexthul realized that perhaps the galaxy's most dangerous species wasn't the one with the most advanced weapons. It was the one crazy enough to weaponize philosophy itself. And somewhere in the depths of space, human scientists were already working on their next project, convincing the universe that the speed of light was merely a suggestion,